It's an advisory group to address the significant challenges facing college athletics. Since the news, the two conferences have also expressed doubt in the future of the college football playoff. Now, Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, said in his statement, "There's no question that the voices of our two conferences are integral to governance and other reform efforts." So, we got a little alliance, and we saw one of those once upon a time. It's supposed to be the Big Ten, Pac-12, and the ACC. And the Big Ten said, within this alliance, we're actually going to eat up the people that we are supposed to be allies of. And now we're in this space where it is Big Ten, SEC as the two most powerful and two wealthiest conferences in collegiate athletics. What do you see as a result of the formation of this alliance?
What I see and what this tells me is that not all are equal in college football. You know, it's the Big Ten and the SEC atop the mountain, and then there's many just right below them as you work your way down the ladder. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. We always say everyone will be treated fairly. That doesn't mean everyone will be treated equally. The big players at the table are the Big Ten and the SEC. It also tells me, which is what we've been kind of waiting on, that the current landscape of college football, all the change that's been going on for the past 5, 6, 7 years, we've overcorrected a little bit. And we're at that point now where we need something new. We need a voice. We need an allegiance, an alliance. We need someone with a vision for the future to start to pull this thing back a little bit and get some clarity, some structure, and guidelines so we can push this game into further and newer and higher heights.
I'm with you there. I think that the people who are aligned with the Big Ten and the SEC, and when I say people, I mean the commissioners, but also the athletic directors and the university presidents and chancellors, have a really good idea of what they envision for the future of sports. Not just football, but I'm talking about all sports at these universities. And there is a difference in opinion, maybe a difference in the vision of what the people on campus see and what the NCAA sees, and how the people on campus want to enforce and dictate rules, and how the people within the NCAA want to do that same thing. And so I see this as a way of the conferences to try to take back a little bit of power so they can have what they believe is a more perfect version of the sports that we see right now. It's interesting reading Tony Petitti's quote because he mentions governance, right? And I think as a part of this, would we get to a point where the conferences say, well, for football, at least, we'd like to be able to govern the sport. We'd like to be able to dictate the way that the sport works because it gives us an opportunity to separate and differentiate our most valuable asset, which is our football team, while also maintaining the rest of our athletic department. I come from Ohio State, 36 varsity sports. We are at a crossroads right now where we can either enhance the sport or we can take away from it. And if we take away from it, we're going to alienate fan bases. We're going to alienate supporters of the sport. We're going to alienate TV networks who have been writing these big checks. And that does nothing except for hurt everybody that's involved in this situation. And I think they're very aware of that and want to get ahead of it.
Let's go back a little bit further here because even Petitti said, I think when you see this, you say, oh, well, look, it's the Big Ten and the SEC are going to break off, right? Petitti, within these statements, they said, hey, that's not our goal. We're not trying to do that. But let's talk about how it could get there. And I know you talk about the college football playoff format, which ESPN's rumored to be pitching over $1 billion towards that. That is a massive, massive entity. And as you're looking at it right now, if you're the Big Ten and the SEC, you're going to say, why should we have equal voting power and rights and equal representation as everybody else? Why should we? Especially with the expansion of the conferences. Both these two conferences are loaded. Therefore, in my opinion, they have leverage. I think that's going to be a big piece of this conversation as well.
And I think they're meeting about the CFP right now. Currently, the current CFP contract runs through 2025, so they're trying to figure out what the solution is beyond then. They have agreed on the 12-team format, but they haven't necessarily agreed on what that format looks like and if that will be the format into the future. So if you're Tony Petitti, if you're Greg Sankey, you're sitting here looking at the college football playoff, and as it's being described right now as they'll have 5 auto bids plus the 7 at-larges. And I'm like, okay, so if I'm the Big Ten or if I'm the SEC, why should I feel like the Big 12 needs to have an auto bid? Why the hell should I feel like any group of 5 school should have an auto bid? And it's a valuable question because we could be in a scenario where, undefeated, one-loss group of 5, highest-ranked team ends up getting in on an auto bid, and you've got maybe a 9-3 or a very good 8-4 who played literally all teams that were in the top 5, top 6 of college football, which is not something I'm making up right now. With the Big Ten and the SEC the way that they're going to be, this is something that could happen. And they're deserving of being in that playoff because, you know, maybe got healthy at the right time, figured things out toward the end of the year, have proven in some of those close losses that they're a good enough team. You take the opportunity away for a team that's probably not going to win it all. I would go as far as to say that we should eliminate the concept of auto bids, and I think that's what Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey are trying to do. I would also go as far as to say we should have a Power 4 college football playoff, crown a champ with that. We should have a group of 5 playoff, and we should change the structure of the way that we look at some of these smaller universities too. Maybe even, this is not an original idea, one of my producers brought this up earlier, why not give back some scholarships from the football team? Do it like they do in FCS. Less scholarships, more sports programs for the university, but an attainable championship. Because when you look at a kid who's in Oxford, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, and Bowling Green, and you try to tell them they're competing for the same championship as the kids in Columbus, you're a liar, and we should stop doing that.
These are the conversations that need to happen. And I get it can be uncomfortable for traditionalists to say, well, why does it have to be this way? I don't like the direct. Well, because this is where we're at. And if you to split the 2 playoffs is a really interesting thought. Why does it have to be that way? The Big Ten and the SEC have infinite leverage. I mean, they own 80-90% of the major brand players in college football.
Yes.
Why they're asking themselves, there's a chance for them to say, we'll break off in form our own playoff, Big Ten versus SEC.
Right.
I don't think they'll do that, but that's a leverage piece that they have because of the brands they own. So for maybe the other conferences like the Big 12 or the ACC that are saying, hey, we want equal rights, understand that that's a potential. Understand where the leverage is, and understand everyone's going to have to sacrifice something for a better path forward.
Let me just paint this final picture for you, is a world where, and I'm not saying we should completely eliminate playing Group 5 schools or even FCS schools in the schedule, but we get to a world where the Power 4 says, okay, we're going to go 10 games of Power 4 opponents. Everybody's going to do that. The other 2, you get to decide how you want to do that. We create the right type of matchups. We get a better picture of what we think these teams are going to be. We can create scheduling alliances between the Power 4 to say, hey, you know, if you're Michigan, you finished at the top of this conference, one of your out-of-conference games for this year is going to be the team that finished in the top of the Big 12, the team that finished in the top of the ACC. Do it like that. I think there's a great opportunity here to get multiple things done in a new era where we could decide to do anything because everything has changed so much.
It's the best thing possible for the fan, too, when you put brand on brand with conference title implications and national title implications. College football, I think it's been the best it's ever been in terms of matchup on matchup. Yep. The future you're proposing would be great from a viewing experience as well. It's one where we all win.